It is repetition which makes for perfection.
All right, here's the perspective lesson. If you draw a figure, and let's say this represents the spine, you're doing an upshot, then the shoulder line and the pelvis line have to be parallel to one another and angled this way, thusly. Okay? If it is a down shot, it would be like this. Okay? If it's on the horizon line, it would be, anyone? It would be like this. I guess the other answer could possibly be this or this. Yeah, that would work too. I would accept either answer. All right, the reason why, okay, let's say you're drawing a can. If you're drawing a can of soup, that would be a down shot of the can of soup. If it was straight on, well, that would be difficult. If it's straight on, it would be, sorry, it would be this. Does that make sense? It's kind of a wide angle lens there. This one, I don't know if I could draw that. Think about that. It's kind of a paradox. If it's an upshot, you would see the bottom of the can, right? So there's that line there, that line. So if we're doing an upshot, your torso, we're seeing the underside of that torso, right? Here's the spine, shoulder line, hip line, underside of the torso. Okay, does that make sense? We're looking up into the rib cage, the bottom of the neck hole. Okay, the slots where the legs go. You connect the torso to the pelvis, the shoulder sockets, right? Now you might be fooled and go like, when you see this and go, it doesn't look, you might not notice that it's an upward perspective shot when you see this in a comic or as a cover, but you are. The camera is lower and we're looking up at the figure. Even though the face can be looking down at us, right, menacingly, we're still looking up. The camera is somewhere down here versus the figure, right? And so you can draw the buildings behind it kind of going up like this. Everything kind of going up, and you get a very dramatic piece this way. Now, if it's a down shot, you have the spine. You're going to go like that and that. So you see the top of where the neck goes. Here's the torso again. Slot there, slot there. You see the top of the pelvis. And then the holes for the legs. Right? Shoulder, top of the shoulder. And so if we do this, you can draw like the top of the rooftop that he's on, and you would draw the top of the buildings of Gotham behind him. So it's people think about perspective as something necessary to think about when you're drawing buildings or backgrounds, but all your figures have perspective built into them. And then when you do a cover or an image with multiple figures, they all have to be in perspective to one another, right? So For example, if you do a shot of a figure, this is pretty standard. Let's say you draw like someone flying straight at you. Okay, does that make sense? Can you see that? All right. Let's say you draw that. Okay. Problem is, because we're looking straight onto that fist, straight onto this figure, the camera has to be here. I've seen people literally draw like a similar straight on pose with another character. Right. So what happens is there's a camera right here in front of this guy, and there's a camera right in front of this guy. There's- So we're looking at an image where there's only one viewer, but you've already set up two cameras, which is an impossibility, right? So um, unless you're super, super far away, where everything kind of looks like it's coming at you, maybe, but you have to think about if I'm here, this person has to be flying a little like this in space, a can of soup, if you were. And then this person would be a can of soup going this way. It's impossible to have two cans of soup coming straight at you such that you're looking straight down the pipe. Does that make sense? Unless you're super, super far away. Think about bullets coming at you, right? So if you're doing a page where multiple characters are running, I always think about the vanishing point, and then characters kind of radiating out from that vanishing point, that can of soup that defines their inner perspective to one another, and then you can draw the figures. It's an upshot, so every line, whether it's a mouth, eyes, kind of fits into that idea. Okay, and that's how you can create a composition that feels like these are like almost like action figures posed in the same space. So you have to create the illusion of perspective in each figure, but then you also want to sell that perspective um, in regards to one another. And then have consistent light sourcing. And then if someone's coming down here, that can of soup would be down shots. So you see more of the top of their head, nose. The top of their shoulders. And because if you look at the center line, notice how the line goes at an angle like that. Based on that, it's vital. It gives you a gives you an important bit of information, which is that the center of that can of soup, the center line, if there was like a logo, it's built off that center line. Because that's the center line, you're going to see more of this arm socket's kind of hidden by the chest. And on this one, you're going to see more of the side of that arm, side right here. That was small, so let me do it a bit larger. Okay. Soup. Center line of soup. Bat soup. Okay. See how that works? Arm socket. Arm socket hidden by torso. Arm, the ball of the shoulder. You're only going to see the bicep from this angle. The camera's off of center. The camera's somewhere right here. Right? And that's why we can't see this shoulder ball is hidden by the chest here. And this is why we can see the side of this arm and the tricep over here. Don't draw every tooth. Otherwise they look like chiclets. Right? If you go they have the same issue in like computer games when you like they can show much detail and texture, like they can show little like color discolorations on the skin to make it look realistic. Then they would model every tooth and it would look like weird and creepy. So if everyone's talking and they have teeth like this, and in particular you have like female characters, and they're like it's like too much detail, right? So it's easier to, especially with a female mouth where less is more, I think, draw. These represent sort of the shadow of the top teeth on the lower teeth. This represents a gap. When you have teeth that kind of grit down on each other, think of these little gaps of shadows. That's what these dots represent. Right? I'm going to blow it out so you don't see these lines and you only see the shadows in between. That's what that is. And if you have to, you draw a little of that gum line right there, but only at the edges. Right? This part, because the top view of the mouth is such, right? Every tooth is like this. This part is closer to us than that part. So this part is more blown out, and this is more in the shadows. So if I'm going to draw any line in between the teeth, it's only on the sides, right? The teeth that are closest to us are closest to the light source, and so they're more blown out. Here's how you do it. Well, here's how I do it. There's lots of different ways. If you have a piece of cloth and it's tacked onto a table, okay, thusly, and you apply force, here's what will happen. It blows in the wind. Okay? If your cloth is such that it's triangular like a cape, okay? That's with no wind. It will fly, but it will stay stuck to this part that's hinged, right? So think of a cape. If you have a cape, it's two triangles, and it's pinned to your shoulders, right? If you have a can of soup here and a larger can of soup, You have these two flaps, okay, that are pinned onto the top, okay. The way to do it is you always know that the lines are gonna come back to the pin. So you draw the pin, draw the thing. I draw the edge of the cape, this bottom line of the cape, okay. See this bottom line? It's like a C. You can make it anything you want. You can make it an S. Okay, if you make it an S, that point here still has to go back there. This still has to go back there. And then this point where it bends goes back there. Okay, and if it rolls on itself, that cape casts a shadow. This part of the cape casts a shadow on the bottom part. Okay. All right. So if I have two, if it's like Superman's cape where it's pinned to both parts of his shoulders. Okay. Let's see. Let's make a W shape. Okay, like that. Let's connect up the cape. This part has to go up here. That part goes there. This part goes here. This part goes there. It rolls over the top. Boom. Okay. So that's your cape mechanics. And it's because every on this fabric there are atoms. Lots and lots of atoms here. How many atoms are there? There's lots and lots and lots and lots. All right. Every atom is connected to an atom that goes back. And so, but these atoms are free to move like that. That's why you get random shapes like that. So if I'm drawing a cape and it's Superman flying, boom. Okay. Now, every part that goes under, you got to draw through, right? So I think about a pretty random shape. So if there's a flagpole, same thing, draw a squiggly shape. There's your flag. You got to draw that squiggly shape. That represents all these atoms that are basically randomly being thrown about. But every atom still stays connected to the pin connectors. Okay. VZA into house logo no folds. That's right. You want to show that the logo. Same thing. I don't like to draw the logo on the chest, kind of going to every crevice of the pecs. I'd like to have it be a logo and be sort of seen with just a slight bit of conformance to the underlying structure. For the most part, I like to see it. What am I trying to say? I don't like to see it as it really would be. I will fake it so that you see it as it should be. Yes, a graphical element. Bamfart is correct. So, last thing about capes. You can also do this if you have a character like Superman. This is kind of a Mike Mignola thing. Think about, I just taught you the mechanics of it. Now think about negative shapes. So think about the silhouette. Right? If the wind's going this way, you can just do that. Think about that shape, and it could be a number of different shapes. And a lot of times I will kind of close my eyes and not even look because I want it to be random.